Okay, so at this point, you're basically ready to talk to a recruiter now. You should have all your education documents in a file, in a folder, or something. You just sat through my DA Form 61 walkthrough, so you should be set to go there. Um, you should have your photo done. You should have your essay written. Your letters of recommendation should be, if they're not already in your hand, they should be in the pipeline, getting written. And you should probably have a resume. Again, that was optional. But at this point now, you're pretty much ready to go talk to a recruiter. Though, one last thing I would do before you actually talk to a recruiter is start to study for your SIFT and your ASVAB. So the ASVAB, I'll talk about that first, kind of quickly, because everybody knows about it, and there's but tons of information on it. So I won't really go too much in depth. What I will tell you is I actually didn't end up studying for it. But I got a 98 out of a possible 99 with a 137 GT. For those of you who don't know, the ASVAB split into what they call line scores, which is like 10 different scores. The one that matters is called the GT score, and to apply to be an aviator, you need a minimum of 120. And that's basically all I'm gonna say. If you have more questions, let me know. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But the ASVAB, there are some obscure questions. I remember, they'd show you a diagram of a car part, or something in the motor. It was an alternator. They showed you a diagram of an alternator, and you're like, "What is this?" And you'd have to figure it out. So if you don't know your car engines or how they work, or maybe pop a hood open and have somebody that knows just kind of show you around a little. Another one that was weird, electrical diagrams. I had to look at electrical diagrams and say, oh, well, this is a diode, this is a resistor, this is, whatever. So that was a little weird. I didn't really have much experience in that, but still, was that super important for my GT score? I don't know. Probably not. In any event, the SIFT, the Selection Instrument for Flight Training. Now this is kind of a different beast. It used to be a different kind of test, but what the Army decided when they switched to the SIFT was that people could quite easily study for and pass the old test. And so what the Army decided is they decided to design an instrument, not necessarily a test now, that's meant to measure more your capacity than your general knowledge of aviation. And so now it's split into 7 sections, 4 of which you can still kind of study for, 3 of which you can, what I like to say, prepare for. So the first section is one of these sections that you can really only prepare for. And that's simple drawings. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump over to the screen capture, and I'm just going to go over with you what simple drawings is. I will say before I do that, there's at least 2 that I use, 2 good SIFT study guides that I bought on, Amazon Kindle or whatever. And that's what I used to study with, and I'll post the link to those in the description below. And no, I'm not, I wish I was getting paid to say that, but I'm not. Those are just the 2 that I bought and that I used, and they seem to work pretty well, except for, and I'll go on a rant about this later, the hidden figures. That was, anyway. So what I'll do right now for simple drawings, I'm going to pop over to the screen capture, and it's super simple, and we'll just talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so this is the first section of the test, and to avoid any copyright issues or what have you, I got this image from SIFT Study Guide, Test Study Guide and Practice Test Questions for the Army SIFT. And I'll post a link in the description below to this, so you can access it. But anyway, super simple part of this test. Basically, here's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo. You just have to click on the one that's different. So A is different than the rest. So one of these things is not like the other. Number 27 here. Guess which one's not like the other. D, okay. 28. B, okay. 29. I think it's, oh no, it's A, okay. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. The catch with this though is that you only have 2 minutes to complete 100 of these questions. When I did it, I only got 98 of them in those 2 minutes. But it is quick. It's gonna go boom, and on the test, it'll actually only show you one at a time, and you don't actually have to click it and then click OK. You just click on the one that you think is different. So it's click, 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 click. So if you average, you know, a few per second, then, or I guess it's 1 per second, you should be good. But yeah, it's a little, it's easy, but you got a lot of them to do in 2 minutes. So 100 questions in 2 minutes, 100 questions in 120 seconds. So you're like a second and a bit for each question. Okay, let's move on to the next section here. Okay, so hidden figures is the next section. Now this is the one that is difficult. As you can see, just looking at this picture here. Again, I got this from the SIFT study guide, test study guide, and practice questions for the Army SIFT. So the object of the game here is to find one of these 5, either this little upside down pants thing, W, little double triangle here, or this little V, I guess, and this little shirt on its side. In each one of these drawings, I guess you could call it a drawing, like a little Jackson Pollock here. But here's a full disclaimer though, you know, and I had 2 different study guides, neither of which were actually like the hidden figures on the test. This is a good idea of what you're going to be looking at, but it's not what's actually going to be on the test. The test is going to be different, at least it was for me. So for example, and I haven't looked at these, so I'm just looking at these right now. This one, this W, if you can see really carefully, it's right here. Burp, burp, burp. Right, it's tricky. This one is probably on par of how it was in the test. Again, okay, so this little upside, this V here, you can find it right here. And then if I look really carefully, I could probably find a few others for you guys. Yeah, but again, this is not what it's actually going to look like on the test. It's something similar, same idea, where there's a splotching of lines on a picture, and there's a certain figure that you had to find inside of that picture, and you just have to look for it. And again, there's a time limit to these. You have to do 50 of them in, I believe it is 5 minutes, but I'll double check on that. Again, yeah, not a lot of time to do quite a few questions, and these ones are significantly harder than, okay, here's the echo right here. This one is right here. So significantly harder than simple drawings, and not that much more time to complete them per question. So that's the idea with hidden figures. I will tell you this, on the test, when you're actually taking the test, and I'll go ahead and cut out of this so you don't have to see this anymore. You can look. So, okay, as I was saying, on the test, while you're actually taking the test, for every section you actually get a practice question, what it's going to look like. And for hidden figures, this is extremely useful. Don't click past the practice question on the hidden figures, or any of them if you don't understand it, but definitely for the hidden figures, until you know what you're looking for. Because for me, I must have stared at that thing for maybe 10 minutes, if not more, and I could not see how they got their answer. And I finally clicked, okay, whatever, I'll just try. And I guarantee that for at least the first 20, there's 50 of them, and like I said, 50 of them in 5 minutes. And for at least the first 20, 25, it was straight guessing. I was just guessing. I was like looking, and I knew I had, you know, a certain amount of time for each one. And so I was trying to go as quick as I could. And I'm pretty sure that I got the first half wrong. And then I finally started seeing the hidden figures in them, like I guess you're supposed to. but I probably could have gotten a lot better. I got a 63 on it in total. So for the SIFT, it's a 40 out of 80, and 40 being the least you can get before you pass. It's 0 to 80, but 40 you need to get to pass, and then 80 is the best you can get. I got a 63. If you get anywhere between 50 and above, you know, in the 50s club there, you're gonna be okay. Everybody that I saw that was applying had, you know, they had their in their 50s. There was a few 48, 46 I think was the lowest I saw. Actually, I think the lowest I saw was a 43. And the highest I ever saw, I think, was 71. That was high. That was a high score. But in any event, the other thing about the SIFT, though, and this is why it's super critical for you to know, especially on the hidden figures, just because that one gave me the hardest time, to know what you're clicking and why you're clicking. You can only take the test twice in your life. So let's say you take it once, you fail. First of all, you have to wait 6 months before you can take it again. So that's going to delay your process 6 months just because you didn't pass your SIFT. And then let's say you take it again and don't pass, you're done. You can't take the test again. You can't be an Army aviator. And on the flip side to that, let's say you take it once and you don't do super hot, but you still pass. Let's say you got a 41, 42. You're stuck with that score. You can't retake it again. So definitely worth to put in a lot of time and effort in studying for this SIFT, especially the 3 sections that you can study for, which I'll get into those here real quick. But that hidden figures, make sure that's the hardest part of the test. At least it was for me. Make sure that that you know what you're getting into before you actually get into that test. They give you that practice question there. Really look at it and make sure you understand it before you go on. Okay, so we'll go on. So the Army Aviation Information Test, that's one section of the SIFT, the next section of the SIFT. So far we've got simple drawings, hidden figures, then there's Army Aviation Information. So that'll be like simple questions like, where is the home of Army Aviation? What kind of helicopters does the Army fly? It's pretty simple stuff. Again, look at a study guide. They'll walk you through it. That's a section of the test you can study for, and definitely study for it, because you're going to want every single point that you can get on this test, and that, especially for the ones that you can study for, you want to be at your A game for that. And for that section, there's 40 questions. You get 30 minutes for each question, so plenty of time on that, and you won't use all that much time on there. The next section, section 4, this is the next one where you can't study for, you can prepare for, and I'll cut real quick back to the screen capture here, and we'll talk about it on there. Okay, so this is the spatial orientation section of the test. I don't remember how many questions are on here on the top of my head, but I'll tell you as soon as we go back to the webcam here. So, but basically, what they're doing here, and this is basically what you're going to see on the test, you're going to see a view from the cockpit. This is what the view from the cockpit's going to be, and you have to correlate that view from the cockpit with a view from somebody on the ground. Basically, this is just kind of gauging how good you're going to be at instrument flying. If the way I see this is basically what you see in your on your gyro there, on your false horizon. Is it false horizon? Artificial horizon, sorry. And yeah, it's pretty simple. So the way I did this, you first, the most obvious thing is the plane banking. There's a slanted line here, so yes, it is. Again, so this is the ground. This is the air. You know this is the ground because it's got the water on it, and this is the air. And so here in this section, or sorry, in this question, you know the plane is banking. That's how I always start. So I always do bank, pitch, and then the orientation of the water. So this one's banking, and it's banking. If you're looking towards the beach, it's banking to the left. Does that make sense? So you've got the water closest to you, so you're looking towards the beach, over water towards the beach, banking to the left. And it's kind of just a step by step. Again, if you look at this, if you buy this study guide, they'll they will take you through this in a much more step-by-step process. But basically, the way I did it is, which way is it looking at the water? Towards or away from the beach, or maybe running alongside the beach, like here in question 2, this is running parallel to the beach. And then is it banking? Which way is it banking? And then you can tell by the elevation of the center of the horizon here, this one is not climbing or descending, but whereas this one, he's climbing. This one, he's also climbing, and this one, he's straight and level flight, but with the bank. So I guess not straight and level flight. But anyway, so question 1 here, flying away from the ocean towards the beach. So you, this plane obviously is flying parallel to the beach, so it's not him. This plane is flying towards the beach, so it could possibly be him. This plane is flying parallel to the beach, so it's not him. And then these last 2 planes are flying towards the beach, so it's going to be one of these 3. Now it's banking, going towards the beach, banking to the right. This guy is banking towards the left, right? So if you imagine yourself in that cockpit, which way are you going to be banking? He's going to be banking towards the left, so it's not going to be B. Is it going to be delta? Probably. Both of these are actually banking, but the difference between these 2 is that echo here is actually diving, whereas delta is not. And if anything, I would say here that he is not diving, he's actually going forward. So that's, very basically how you're going to do these. You're imagining yourself in the cockpit of each of these aircraft, and then you're going to see, what would I be seeing on my artificial horizon? So if I was in this aircraft, would I be seeing this in my artificial horizon? Probably not, but it's going to be either D, or I'm going to say D in this one. Again, 2, so if I was in this aircraft, would I be seeing this? He's level flight, he's climbing, but in level, so he's probably not going to see it. He's going with the beach here, but I'll just tell you right now, it's going to be Charlie here, because it's flying parallel to the beach. Oh, actually, it's. Oh no, yeah. Yeah, it will be Charlie because he's flying parallel to the beach, climbing, and banking towards the sand there. So that'll be Charlie there. And then 3, flying straight and level flight, parallel to the beach. You just find the aircraft that's like that, and that'll be Delta here. And what's funny here is you actually, is it coming towards you or away from you? You wouldn't really be able to tell. But they don't give you that curveball here, so Delta is the right answer here. And last but not least, 4, again parallel to the beach, but this time banking towards the water, so it'll be Delta here. Or actually, this is kind of a hard one. You have to decide on whether he's diving or he's parallel. You know, the center of the artificial horizon is basically in the center of the the center of the horizon is basically in the center of the artificial horizon. So I would say that it's Delta and not Charlie. Delta and not Bravo. And that's basically how you're gonna do this. Again, this is just a quick little recap on how to do these. If you read the actual study guide, you'll be able to do that. So you got an idea there, spatial orientation, and so there's 25 questions in that section with 10 minutes. It's more than enough time. I know I didn't do a great job of explaining it, and but really it's on you to study that, and this isn't a study guide here. I'll point you in the description below to 2 really great study guides that I used, and I ended up getting a good score on that. But those, so we already went over the 3 that you can't really study for, you can prepare for: simple drawings, hidden figures, and spatial orientation. Hidden figures, the hardest one. Anyway, so after that, you have reading comprehension test. This is your basic high school reading comprehension test. It is not hard. You have 20 of those. You can do it in 30 minutes. You're going to get it done in 10 minutes, if that. You got a math skills test. Again, super simple. The train leaves the station at 5 o'clock. What time is it? That kind of question. Super simple. Depending on how, so if you get them right, if you're getting them all right, getting them right, you're going to have less questions than if you get them wrong. It's a variable question test, but basically you have 40 minutes to get a bunch of them right. And then you've got your mechanical comprehension test. This is your physics test. And yeah, I mean, just study flight physics. Nothing else to that. Again, study guides are going to help you with this. But, you know, they're going to take you through what's the lift, you know, what are the four forces acting on an aircraft. I think they do a little bit on, like, levers and, like, mechanical advantage and things like that. I don't really remember. But it's nothing too difficult. This is your high school physics class kind of test. Maybe centered more a little towards aviation. But simple. I mean, they only give you 15 minutes for it. And, again, it's a variable question. How many questions they're going to give you. So, but, yeah. So that's the SIFT. It's definitely super important that you study for it, get ready for it, and remember, you can only take it twice. And if you fail the first time, you're gonna have to take it 6 months later. So do your best to study for it. If you guys have questions, leave them in the description. In the comments below, and I might get to those later. Definitely look into those study guides that I'm going to post in the description. They'll definitely help you out. And so after you study really hard for the ASVAB and the SIFT, now you're ready to go talk to a recruiter and impress him, blow his socks off, and get him to really work well and diligently for you. And we'll talk more about that in my next video.